You are listening to Freshly Squeezed.
And then one night we were walking home from Wigan Pier, and then this van stopped and the doors opened and it was like, "Get in, lads." One of my mates recognised the band. After the Verve, he come in to lend videos.
Hello, welcome to Freshly Squeezed, your weekly hit of brand new music. The ideal place to find your next favourite band is my name's Jim. How you doing? Nice to see you. Introduce you to three of my favourite up-and-coming bands. We'll have a little chat, we'll play some of the tunes, and if you want to find more, as always, there are links in the podcast description. So, who have we got on this week's episode? Well, we're going down under to speak to an artist turned musician and one for fans of the likes of Lily Allen. In a little bit, I'll be introducing you to Stefanie Neal.
He's got a killer smile, but he might be trouble. Need to think quickly, yeah, I gotta be careful.
We're also going to hear from a fella who has been in the music industry for a while, who has had a fair few musical collaborations and touches with success as well, but is now making some brilliant music under the name Encoded Frequencies.
When the lights go down, we'll talk things over. No use now for falling over.
More of that tune, Glitter, and more from the band in a little bit as well. But first, we're going to start off with a trip to Blackburn. We're going to speak to the band Stil Life, but before we speak to them, let's have a little bit of their brand new tune, Hallowed.
Foundations of the storm crumble like old bones, turn to dust around us all, fade to nothing. Cast a die, cast a stone, when the seeds are sown, as the chaos starts to grow, pulls me under. Can you feel it fading out? When it's over, burn it to the ground.
That's Hallowed. It's brand new from Stil Life, and Owen and Danny join me on the pod. How are we doing, boys?
Good.
So, a band from Blackburn, a town associated more with Shearer and Sutton than snares and Stratocasters. But being a new band in a place which, I've got to say, I don't think has a massive, big musical heritage going on, is that a challenge as a new band coming through?
I definitely think so, yeah. We don't have a lot of venues to be able to play live in and stuff like that, and it's difficult, especially like we do find that we have to go into the cities and stuff to really like get out there. But there is a nice little scene up here, to be honest. Like Sunbird Records, which is, I would say, ultimately the main venue for grassroots music around here. They really do a good job of pushing all the new local bands and stuff. They have independent festivals which they run themselves and stuff, where they really push it. And there are quite a few bands around here. It is quite surprising when you think about it. Like, it's just a small working class town, and there is quite a little thriving music scene, to be honest.
Well, we've got to give props to Sunbird, specifically Jerry.
Yeah.
He's done right by us since we started the band.
Yeah.
I think when you get that kind of environment where there are limited venues and maybe bands vying for that space, it can go one or two ways. It can either get really collaborative and everyone works together, or it can get a little bit cutthroat and everyone's kind of out for themselves. Which way has it gone in Blackburn?
I don't know. I think obviously whenever we play with people from around here, we always we all know each other, really. That's the thing. Like, everyone knows each other because the people who do music have always done music around here. I don't know. I think collaboration in bands generally is quite a rarity, if I'm honest. No one hates each other, let me say that, but I think collaboration up here is it's very, very slim.
The only collaboration I would say is people sharing other musicians when there's like one drummer in the town that's in 10 bands.
Yeah.
Hedging his bets.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Just putting his cards on the table.
So, new tune Hallowed. You say it's about feeling like you're in a place where the world is crumbling in around you. Is this something that's autobiographical, or is this kind of how you feel about the world right now?
When we write lyrics, we take more of like a fictional approach, should I say. Like, we don't sing, oh, I was walking down the street to the shop. Like, we might say something that, you know what I'm saying? A lot of bands are like, oh, my heart broken by this girl. Like, we like to tell a story, but we want the people listening to have their own, what's the word?
Interpretation.
Yeah, interpretation of it. Like, what we're saying in Hallowed might mean something completely different to two different people. And it's not like this is a situation that's happening. It's, what if this situation happened? How would we feel? How would we get through it? I think that was the main writing point from Hallowed.
Do you find yourself naturally leaning into the gloom with your writing? And some of my favourite bands do this, the likes of New Order and White Lies, for example. They can write lyrics that might be uplifting, but yet musically it feels foreboding. You've got that element about you and your music, I think. Is that something you strive for?
I think naturally, yeah. I don't know why. It's not as if we're all like walking around in the rain with our heads down like all the time. Us five together, we're quite joyful. Like, it's a joyous experience being in this band with these lot.
I think part of the culture of where we were brought up is the fact that a lot of people make light of things, no matter the situation. And I think that can kind of translate in our music, where we might write happy progressions, but with melancholic meaning behind it. More often than not, that's what most great songwriters do. You know, John Lennon could take a really, really, really sad topic and write a happy song about it. And that's kind of how we sort of sometimes approach songwriting.
Not that we're on the level of John Lennon yet. Let's but
I would like to be.
Well, you've not heard his I was walking down the streets to the shop song. That's why you're making that statement. It's not all doom and gloom, obviously. This tune has brought a pretty significant milestone for the band. Your first national radio play, you got a spin from Chris Hawkins on Six Music. Does that moment as a band, having your music played on the radio, still have the same kudos it once did? Does it really feel endlessly exciting to hear your music being played out of the radio?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, when we started this band, it wasn't for like to chase anything. Like, we started this band because we all like to jam together, and it was just something to do. It's as if the way I describe it is when lads go and play five-a-side and midweek, they know they're not going to be professional, but they enjoy playing football. That was like the main thing. It was just to get together and write some music, and things have just progressed and progressed. And when we heard it on the radio for the first time, we captured the moment on the video when we all heard it together. It's on our Instagram.
And now new music by a very new band from Blackburn that you need on your radar. This is an upfront play of their atmospheric new one, which is not out until Friday. Just listen to this and show them some love on socials if you're into this. I am. They're called Stil Life.
It's wholesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a wholesome feeling.
So it's a rewarding experience, and we're blessed to be given the opportunities that we've been given right now. And I think through the hard work that we've all put in, I think being played on national radio, I think it's always a very great moment for everybody. I think told anybody who's up and coming in the band that they got national radio playing, they might not believe you when you first say it. So yeah, I'd say it's a great thing.
I think as well, it's for, you know what it's like. It's fickle. Music's fickle. It's like, I might see someone who I've not seen for years, and they're like, "Oh, you're still doing music? Oh, all right," kind of thing. Like, but then when you say, "Oh, we've been played on national radio," or "We're playing at Kendal Calling," all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, I'm interested in that now," kind of thing. It's definitely still as rewarding as I think it was, as it always has been.
Nice. Brilliant to see it going well for you boys, and an absolute pleasure to have you on Freshly Squeezed.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Top lads, the Stil Life boys. And you know what? I'm sure that is actually a John Lennon song that we mentioned. Let me see. I've looked from a record collection. God, I've got so many. I'm sure. Yeah. Look, little known B-side this. Check this out. John Lennon. I was walking down the road to the shops.
I was walking down to the shops. Life's a carousel, it never quite stops. Round and up it hops. I was walking down the streets to the shops.
Who'd have thought it? 100% genuine John Lennon. That you might not be able to find it or any record of it in record shops. There is no link to that in the podcast description. There is a link to all the artists we feature on this episode, including Stefanie Neal, who's up next. Hi, Stefanie. Pleasure to have you on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So, London born, but Sydney based, which is where you're talking to me from now. How long have you been out in Australia?
Oh, a long time. I've been here for, I think it's like 23 years now.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I was going to ask if you remember kind of going out there for the first time and as a kind of Brit abroad, what the most difficult thing was to adapt to. But do you even remember that far back?
Oh, I think I was so young, I just sort of naturally did adapt. And I think initially I wasn't thinking I was going to move here for good. I was backpacking. So
Okay.
there wasn't that sort of, oh my God, I'm living in a different place. I just sort of naturally kind of melted in here. But yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. The weather's great. Like, what's not to love, really?
You are more than a musician, you're a visual artist too. When did the music become part of what you did as your art?
It must have been, I'd say 3 or 4 years ago, I was making some digital art. And because it was digital, I was able to recite some of my poetry over the top. I'd always written little stories and poems and stuff. And then it just escalated really into making tracks with a producer. Initially, I was seeing the tracks as an addition to the art pieces. I wasn't thinking they'd be sort of standalone songs. But then recently, I've been working with a new producer, I think, for about a year now. And yeah, I think the stuff that we've made does stand up as just music. So yeah, I mean, I hope that people feel the same way, that they can enjoy it with or without the visuals.
It's a really unique style, I think you've got. It feels a little bit 90s to me. I kind of remember some of that electro pop stuff from the 90s that felt familiar, but then there's reference points like Lily Allen and Kate Nash as well. And almost slightly randomly, perhaps, I'm getting a bit of blockheads when I listen back to it. Was the direction you took that music in, was it a result of the journey you've just kind of described, that it was ultimately spoken word put to music, or was it that was the way you felt was best to tell the story, or was it just a genre that you particularly enjoyed and you wanted to go in that direction?
I just do what I want to do, really. I'm not actually really thinking about it too much. And I think a lot of the stuff my producer and I've made recently, like we've got some drum and bass tracks in there. There's some, stuff with like fat bass lines. And there's actually a real like mixed bag of music that hasn't been released yet. Even though it is varied, we are at the same time like refining the sound a little bit more. For a while, I was doing a bit more singing and realized that I actually didn't sound like me at all. So we came back to like more of the sort of spoken word style. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I there's certain people that I look up to, I suppose. Like I love Kay Tempest. I love Ren for being like this all-round powerhouse, like, plays loads of instruments and really like embodies a character when he's performing. I love the Streets for their humor and relatability. So I definitely like think about those things when I'm creating my own music, but I don't think I necessarily sort of like try to be like anyone or even fit in a particular genre.
I've noted you've said before that it was your dad that kind of inspired your love for music and his records soundtrack to your childhood growing up. What was it that you remember being in his collection? Well, was there anything in his collection that you remember that has kind of directly inspired what you make now? Because all the bands you referenced there are fairly contemporary acts.
I mean, he listened to a lot of different stuff, but probably like, not that I'm trying to sound like David Bowie, but I love that David Bowie was so fearless in the way that, if he decided to change direction, he would. And, he wasn't really, you couldn't really put him in a box. Like he was just a creative powerhouse. And he just did whatever he wanted to do. And I kind of like that fearlessness and that not sort of overthinking in terms of what the audience wants and just doing what you want to do because it feels right for you. So, yeah, I think my dad sort of introduced me to good music and a varied range of music. So that's probably, yeah, I mean, obviously, like what I've just said, all the, the different sort of styles of tracks that we've been making, I guess that's where that comes into play, really. I just like to play around and see what happens.
We're going to play Killer Smile on Freshly Squeezed, final tune from a series which very much looks at modern life and the impact of technology. How does this song fit in with that collection?
Well, I was thinking like a lot of the subjects I've spoken about have been things like seeking pleasure through the screen, AI, the manipulation that happens online that polarizes people. So they're all quite serious subjects, even though I do them tongue in cheek. So for the last one in the series, I was thinking like, let's do a fun one, and decided I'd do one about a dating app. And then I remembered about 13 years ago meeting up with a friend, and it was when dating apps had just sort of come into fruition. So she was explaining to me the concept of a dating app, and I was just like, what are you talking about? You're meeting up with strangers? Like, are you mad? Like, you're being a freaking lunatic. Like, I was genuinely like, I mean, obviously they took off, but I was genuinely shocked by the idea. So I just ran with that really and took it in a bit of a dark direction.
I was just saying, because you mentioned like the humour in music you like, and it's difficult because it's a really serious topic you're kind of touching on in the song, but it is done with a sartorial twist, I guess. Was that difficult to find a balance there?
Yeah, I mean, sort of, I wanted it to be a bit comedic. It's a dark comedy, but I also wanted it to be semi-realistic too. So even writing the track, like there's a Chekhov's gun in there where I, plant the weapon before revealing what it actually is. And obviously it turns out to be the old hairspray in the eye move. So yeah, I think I wanted to have that humor in there because I think humor is always really entertaining. But at the same time, there's definitely a message in there to, particularly for young girls, to sort of trust your intuition and perhaps listen to your mates if they're telling you someone seems a bit dodgy.
We'll get the brand new tune on Killer Smile in a second. We'll also put a link to the video in the podcast description because, as you say, you're a visual artist and that definitely comes out in the video to the work as well. But Stefanie, thanks very much for your time on Freshly Squeezed.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
I swipe right, left a message of the game, so we match chatting bands. It's a flow, get to know you dance time. I make Kate about him. I said he was a cashier and show me the messages. I'll be the judge of that. He's a bit too smooth, got too much swag. I'm telling you, baby, that's a big red flag. I heard blah, 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 and a date I plan. Secretly, I'm hoping that this my new man. Date day came, I was getting myself ready. Had a funny feeling, it was like excitement in my belly. But instead of butterflies fluttering in my insides, I was getting spidey senses. I brush them to the side as I brush my hair. Tip my head, spritz with hairs from a secret weapon. Then look myself in the mirror, gave me 10 out of 10. Pop the spray into my bag in case I needed it again. He's got a killer smile, it's living on my mental. Can we be each other's property? I'm not looking for a rental. He's got a killer smile, it's living on my mental. Got into an Uber, smells good, 5 stars. Kate sent a DM, can I bell her after? She's watched too much true crime. I text, I will be fine. As I shimmy out the car, sashay into the bar. Caught a glance at my date, over times are on the cars, yeah they are. Yeah, they are.
Dead cool that. Like I said, it reminds me of something from the 90s, but I can't quite put my finger on exactly what. Check out Stefanie's video that goes alongside Killer Smile because it is ace, and like I said, that's kind of what she does. She's a visual artist taking a bit of a first step into music. 2 down, 1 to go. Every week on Freshly Squeezed, I introduce you to 3 new artists. So if you're not subscribed yet, make sure you are following us in your favourite podcast app. As I said, 66.6 recurring percent of the way there, and that final 33.33% recurring is going to be made up from Encoded Frequencies, aka Paul Whaley, who joins me on the pod. How you doing, Paul?
Yeah, amazing, thanks.
So we're talking about debut LP, which is out now, Initialized. First record as a solo artist, but certainly not your first venture into music. And you say that this record is 20 years in the making. So how have you got to this point?
It's a bit of a massive overnight success that took 20 years. Yeah. So to this point, like sort of in the background, as well as being in bands, obviously in the northwest of England, many indie labels, sort of record contracts and things that have nearly happened, but not quite happened, but always had this music in the back of my mind that never quite fitted. I was in mainly like alt rock or even more electronica bands towards the end. And then sort of around when the kids came about, sort of 2005, that was when I decided to put all my band life on hold and concentrate as a bedroom artist, really, to get together some music based on what I've been thinking about over the years. And it was very much instrumental and all loops, basically loops on guitar pedals or on Apple Macs, etc. Got to 2019 and thought, okay, it's about time I put some of this stuff together that's in my head. And yeah, started recording it and finally got the recording completed in 2023 when a long-time collaborator, Mark Wainwright, who's again been in a lot of artists and he's obviously worked with at the Farm quite recently as well, he sort of got involved. He took my music and we suddenly realized that there was actually a thread and some songs and some lyrics, a thread throughout my music that was based on where I grew up and some of the experiences I had. And so, yeah, we decided to put it out. And yeah, it came out in July of this year, which has been amazing.
Do you recognise the tunes? Like when you listen to stuff on the album now, do you kind of go back 20 years and go, oh yeah, that was that bit that started there, which might have been like a 3-chord progression or whatever, and then it's just expanded, or does it feel very separate to what you were doing back then?
No, I think that's the weird thing, is that it still feels fresh. It's like almost like a lot of bands that I'm into, and a lot of the influences come out through the music. So, obviously I'm an 80s child, like we like sort of left school in the 90s explosion. So Sonic Youth, Dinosaur Jr., like clashing with electronica and all the great stuff that was going on in hip hop. For example, Glitters, that's something that's about where I grew up in Skelmersdale. And when I listen to the opening like 3 chords, it does take me back to living in Skelmersdale, even though I'm not there anymore. So it's quite weird.
Is that a fond memory? Because I think as a record, it's quite dark, it's quite brooding. This song particularly, I hear echoing the Bunnymen in there, maybe a bit of Doves, actually a touch of Damon Albarn, I think, as well as non-Blur work. So it doesn't feel like a happy record if it's about your kind of formative years.
Amazing. No, that's true. And obviously the album cover is like a black and white sort of depiction of the Concourse Shopping Centre, which is not a very happy place either, because it's quite a monolithic centre of the universe for a new town like Skelmersdale. But I think one of the things I learned as I got older is that what I thought was specific to growing up in Skem is exactly the same experience as other people have in other parts of the country. And, it's just part of being working class, I guess, and realising that actually, you're not on your own. There are people out there, and, it's part of, being a bloke and growing up, is that, you're quite vulnerable when you put out a record like this. And like you're saying, it's quite dark and brooding. But to me, it feels like a valid sort of statement to what it was like in the 80s and 90s, growing up and being part of, everything that was going on in music. But I think there is little glimmers of hope in there as well, especially with, These Streets Are Paved with Gold, for example. I'm trying to tell myself, keep going, boy, you'll get there in the end type of thing.
Speaking of the 90s, I want to touch briefly on your musical past. As you said, you've had a few incarnations, and right back in 1991 with your first band, Violet House, you shared a journey back home and a motivational chat with Richard Ashcroft. How did that come about?
Yeah, that was amazing, because we were like frequenters to Wigan Pier, like the sort of iconic nightclub in Wigan at the time. We had a Wednesday night indie night. It was almost like everyone and anyone from like the Northwest used to turn up there. And, Richards and the Verve, they used to get the bus from Up Holland. It was the same bus that us guys from Skelmersdale used to get, because they passed through Up Holland on the way into Wigan. And so we used to see them all the time, basically, but never used to chat to them, because even back then, like, they were at a different level, basically. And then one night we were walking home from Wigan Pier, and we got to probably Pemberton, and then this van stopped and the doors opened, and it was like, "Get in, lads." And it was like one of my mates recognised the band because he worked in a video shop up in Holland, and it was like, "Oh, that's the Verve. You come in to learn videos." For younger listeners, videos are things that we had before Netflix.
Who'd have thought we'd be in a place you have to explain what a video is?
But yeah, like, used to get the videos and go back to Richard's flat with other hairdressers and, get stoned or whatever and watch videos and do all that good stuff. And yeah, we got in the back in this van, and I was quite sort of taken back. They were on the way back from a Spiritualized gig, and they were so friendly. It was all sickly because obviously, like, they'd made it at that stage, even though it was still early days. And we were supporting the Tansads, who were a local Wigan band, and the Verve got their big jump, or one of their big jumps, off the back of supporting the Tansads. And so Richard was really supportive, saying, use this as a sort of a trampoline to elevate your status. It's going to be amazing, X, Y, and Z. And he actually dropped us off right outside my house. So that was an amazing experience. And obviously Violet House, unfortunately, we got quite a long way with a contract with London Records, but as with a lot of bands back then in the 90s with Manchester, never quite came to fruition, unfortunately.
Nice. Well, fast forward a fair few years from there, and you're doing the solo stuff. You've got some gigs on the horizon too. 29th of November, you're going to be at Cas Social in Ormskirk. 30th of November, big Condo Showcase in Warrington as well. How does this music work when you take it to a live arena? Because it is you as a solo artist, and I imagine it's quite hard to replicate what's on the LP in a solo space.
Yeah, some of the inspiration for, how the hell am I going to do this is not even sort of traditional sort of instrumentation-based bands. So I don't know whether you've ever heard the Gas Lamp Killer. Like he's like an electronic sort of guy out in the States. I went to watch him support Run the Jewels, and he gave me an inkling of how potentially I could do it, because he was mixing live instruments with decks and, you know, samplers. And so what I do, I've got a sampler, I've got guitars, bass. You know, I've done a handful of gigs and it was pretty chaotic at the start. As you're saying, there's a lot to take on, but I've actually streamlined it now a lot with the help of, I've got like a sound engineer on board who's going to help me at these gigs. And he's took a bit of the cognitive load so I can concentrate on the performance. But yeah, it's interesting because I'm not just doing what's on the album. It's almost like a soundscape. It's not really got a start and stop. So, you know, definitely guys who are going to come up to the shows and who've listened to the album, they'll see different versions of the album. I've even played it acoustic as well, just to get out there acoustically as well, because I think the songs do work in multiple different ways. Because they've been going that long and there's a good thread, I've described it as more Frank Sidebottom than Ed Sheeran to some people. And, you know, Frank is someone who, funny enough, he is like someone who I aspire to in terms of there was elements of brilliance as well as, you know, obviously chaos.
Well, we're going to play Glitters off the new EP next. Paul, lovely to chat to you. Good luck with the gigs, and I'm sure we'll speak again soon.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Jim.
To my own town, we know all the sound. The volume down, it's no illusion. 'Cause we all know who always glitters. Yeah, we all know who always glitters.
Kablamo! We're done. That is it. Final tune on today's Freshly Squeezed, Glitter from Encoded Frequencies. What a trio of tracks I've featured. What a trio of artists we've had on this podcast this week. If you enjoyed it, if you want to find more music, two things to do. One, hit that follow button. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast in whatever app it is in which you listen. That means you get a notification when the next episode drops and you're never going to miss a future episode. Also, check out the back catalogue, because there are loads of episodes we've done of this, which means loads of artists as well. I think this is episode 40, which means that, what's the maths? 160 minimum bands that you can check out if you check out the episodes that have already been. Thanks as always for your time, really appreciated. Thanks for your support as well. See you next week for another Freshly Squeezed. Cheers for your ears.
The award-winning Freshly Squeezed, a new music podcast, was devised, produced and hosted by Jim Salveson. Sound design and additional production by Ant McKinley. Theme music, Blue Blazer, is written and produced by Spin Class. Stop.